Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new lesson. This is lesson 2.4 and we're going to talk about percents that are greater than 100% and also less than 1%. So let's get started. Okay, first thing we have to do is write 2/10 of a percent as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. All right, I'm just going to rewrite my number, which is 0.2%. And we're going to have to do it as a decimal and as a fraction. So we'll do it as a decimal and as a fraction. All right, so let's break it down first. So first I have 0.2. 0.2. And if you remember, my rule to change a percent to a decimal is to just move to the left. And we're going to move it 2 spaces. 1, 2, add my 0, boom. So as a decimal, it will be decimal point 0.002. Okay, good enough. Now, to make it as a fraction, what we have to do is just count our decimal places. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So as a fraction, it will be 2/1000. Okay, it does say in simplest form, so we are going to have to reduce. What is the largest number that can go into both of those? Well, it's 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. And there I have 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. So there we have it. As a decimal, it is decimal 0.002. And as a fraction, it is 1 out of 500. Let's try another one. Okay. This time we're going to deal with a percent that's larger than 100%. So here I have, write 170% as a mixed number in simplest form and as a decimal. We know it's going to be a mixed number because it's 100% or larger. So let's look at it. I'm going to rewrite my number, which is 170%. We're going to do it as a decimal and as a fraction. Okay, so decimal. 170. My decimal point's here. We're going to move it 2 places. 1, 2. As a decimal, it's going to be 1.70. Okay? Now we have to do it as a fraction. So let's look. 1.70. Well, we know the whole number is going to be 1. And then it's 70 over 10 hundredths. 70 hundredths. Okay. Can it be reduced? It can. If we divide the numerator by 10 and the denominator by 10, we're going to be left with 1 and 7 over 10. And that can't be reduced any further. So that looks perfect to me. 1 and 7/10, 1 and 7/10 or 70 hundredths, it's the same thing. So we've done it. Mixed number, decimal, perfect. Let's try this one. This time, though, write each percent as a decimal and as a mixed number or fraction in simplest form. So each one, same thing. We're going to do a decimal and a fraction. So here I have decimal point 25% or 25 hundredths of a percent. Same thing, we're going to move it to the left. The same rules apply. If the decimal point was here, we'd move it that way. If it's here, we'd move it that way. It just so happens that it's here, and we're going to move it 2 places, 1, 2. I'm going to rewrite it just to illustrate it a little bit better. Decimal point, 25%. We're going to move it 1, 2 places, so now my decimal is here. Boom, 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 perfect. So really what that is now, it is decimal point 0.025. So that's what it looks like as a decimal. Now let's look at it as a fraction. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So it will be 25 over 10,000. Wow, big number. Can it be reduced? It can. I see a 5, I see a 0. If I divide both by 25, I'm going to be left with 1 over, and I'm going to do my work down here, 10,000 divide by 25. Can't go in there, can't go in there. So 25 goes into 100 4 times. 4 times 25 is 100. Subtract 0, drop it, 0. Can't go into that. 0, 0, subtract 0, drop it. 25 goes into 0 0 times. I have 400 as my answer. So decimal point 25% is equivalent to 0.025, I'm sorry, decimal point 0.0025, and it's also equivalent to 1/400ths. Okay? Let's try this one down here. This one is 300%. If you remember, my decimal point is here, so I'm going to move it once, twice. So as a decimal, it's just going to be 3.0, which of course we know is just plain old 3. All right, so now that is what it looks like as a decimal, but how do I write it as a fraction? Well, if it's just the whole number 3, it would just be 3/1. Boom, all good. Let's look at another couple examples. This time we have a decimal. What we have to do is we have to turn it into a percent. So it says write 1.68 or 1 68 as a percent. I'm just going to rewrite my number. Now if you remember, when you would create a percent, you want that decimal point to run and create the percent. So I'm going to move it 1, 2 spaces, and that'll be my new percent. So I have 168%. Perfect. Let's look at this one here. Write 0.0075 as a percent. I'm going to move it 1 space. I'm going to move it 2 spaces. So now my decimal is there. It is going to look like decimal point 75%. Okay, not too bad. Let's try a couple more examples. This time I have fractions, and what I want to do is I want to turn my fractions into a percent. Couple steps we have to do with these. First, this says 1 1/4 as a percent. I'm just going to rewrite 1 1/4 to make it look like that. Step 1, I'm going to make it a decimal. I'm sorry. Yes, DECIMAL. Step 1 is I'm going to make it a decimal. 1 1/4. I know that the whole number 1 is going to be there. Why? Because there's a whole number here in this mixed number. Now I have to work on this 1/4 and turn that to a decimal. Well, in order to do that, 1 goes on the inside of the house, 4 goes on the outside of the house. Decimal point, boom. 4 goes into 10, well, it can't go into 1, so it goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract, we are at 2. Annex a 0, drop it down. 4 goes into 25 times. 20, subtract, we are at 0. Perfect. So we are at 1.25. We're not done though, because it specifically says write 1 1/4 as a percent. We have it as a decimal. Now make it a percent. In order to do that, 1.25, we move the decimal point 1, 2, and we are at a percent. So my new percent is going to be 125%. This one here, a little challenge for you. I want you to try this one on your own. Give it your best shot. Remember, I want you to try it. Don't come in with a blank question. If you're unsure how to do it, watch me do this one. It's very similar. I just changed the numbers a little bit. Instead of 1 1/4, it is 3 2/5. Okay? Give it a shot. We'll see you tomorrow. And I guess I have nothing to throw, so